Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of IAP India technical team, I, Dr. Jaspreet, welcome our today's speaker, Dr. P. Anthony Leo, sir. For this webinar, the topic is Understanding Pain Neurobiology, Treatment Path to Low Back Pain. And our today's moderator is Dr. Priyanka Tyagi, ma'am. I welcome you on this platform. And I over to Dr. Priyanka Tyagi, ma'am. Please moderate this session. Before over to you, ma'am, I request all the participants, please like and subscribe IAP India YouTube channel and Facebook page. Over to you, Priyanka, ma'am. Please moderate the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jaspreet ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of IPWC Ghaziabad branch of Uttar Pradesh, I, Dr. Priyanka Tyagi, extend my warm welcome to yet another webinar on understanding pain neurobiology, treatment path to lower back pain by a very dynamic resource person, Dr. P. Anthony Lear Asif, sir. Welcome you, sir. Sir is presently working in Sri Ramchandra Institute of Higher Education and Research. He has done his Masters of Physiotherapy in Orthopedics and Traumatology and has done his PhD way back in 2018. Sir is a certified ortho manual therapist with 18 years of academics and clinical experience. His research focus is TKR rehabilitation, manual therapy, vertebral column, and chronic pain. He is the core team member of many prestigious institutes. He has been honored by Scroll of Honor Award by South Camara Physiotherapy Teaching Association in 2012 and a Significant Contribution Award by IAP in 2012 and 2018. He has been awarded as Best Physiotherapist Award by the Indian Physical Therapist Welfare Association in 2013. To add the feather to his hat, sir has also been honored to Mr. Jayapal Best Research Publication Gold Medal in Faculty of Physiotherapy SRU in 2015. IAP WC was started in 2018. It functioned under the guidance of our national head, Dr. Ruchi Vaishnav ma'am, and IAP president, Dr. Sanjeev Jha sir. This is their vision to collaborate, to communicate, and core consistency and integrity in the female physios of India, which has brought all of us on this common platform. And through this platform, I would like to congratulate each and every member of IAP for being the member of WCPT now. Thank you so much. Over to you, sir. A very warm welcome to the session.
Thank you, Priyanka. A very good afternoon to one and all. It gives me immense pleasure in presenting the understanding of pain neurobiology, the treatment path to low back pain. My sincere thanks to the Almighty for His wonderful blessings on to us, and a specific mention of thanks to the IAP Women's Cell of Ghaziabad for providing me such a wonderful opportunity to deliver this lecture. My dedication to my professor and mentor, Professor A.G. Dandapani, this presentation I dedicate to him, and my prayers for his soul to rest in peace. So the objectives of today's presentation is that we will be seeing across what are all the pain mechanisms which could cause a back pain and what are its implications onto the rehabilitation. And very importantly, the world is thriving with chronic back pain. So what are all the treatment interventions towards and what is so recent in the research on managing the chronic pain, and even the World Confederation of Physical Therapy has observed chronic pain as being the motto for the past year. So henceforth, even this year too, even the WCPT will have its own motto because treating a chronic pain is an Himalayan task. So the learns which I have learned from the Lancet Back series. So this is going to be the base or the platform for my presentation. This was a publication being done by Peter O'Sullivan, who was one of the pioneer in low back field. And the learns from that is the lessons which we have learned from the Lancet Low Back series, which got published in the year 2018, which clearly said that back pain disability is going to be increasing day by day or year by year. And the majority of the back pain is not serious and it cannot be linked to a specific structure. So this point itself totally abolishes the pathoanatomical pattern of diagnosing a back pain. And advice and activity should be the first line of options, which are considered to be the prime and the topmost component in back pain rehabilitation. Very importantly, the psychosocial factors are the major contributors for back pain apart from the tissue pathology. And advocacy of positive health and ability to adapt to the various changes. And there are a lot many misconceptions which are there as of the low back rehabilitation is concerned. So with these points, I think my presentation will give you an highlight about each and every component what this publication is meant for. Moving on to the history, as we all know that the theory, there are only two theories as of pain is concerned. It is the famous Melzack theory in 1965, which postulated the pain gate mechanism, and spinal cord acts as a gate by which the pain can be suppressed at the level of the spinal cord, that is at the substantia gelatinosa. So as we all know that the pain pathway, you do have the order 1 neuron till the spinal cord, and it crosses, it carries over to the spinothalamic tract for the pain till it reaches the spinal cord that serves as a second order neuron, and from then to the tertiary neuron passes across. So this is what is the pathway which says across, and Melzack has clearly postulated that through a deep touch, a stimulus which can stimulate the fibers, that is your Pacinian corpuscles, by which your pain can be blocked at the substantia gelatinosa. Further, Melzack in 1997 has again postulated a theory which is called as a neuromatrix theory. You have to compare and contrast these two theories as proposed by Melzack within a span of 30 years, where in the neuromatrix theory, which he clearly says that one sensory input is no way enough for a back pain to be there. So which you mean to say there are many sensory inputs which could influence a pain, and one among it is your cognitive factor. The second is the sensory signaling, just now we saw, and the third one is an emotional related factor. So this cognitive, sensory, and affective are the three major domains which are considered to be the possible pain mechanisms in low back. Not only in low back, in anything else, but this is more related to a low back pain where you can able to get across the neuromatrix theory clearly explains it is not only the sensory input as like a pain prick or as like a tissue damage or as like a degeneration, apart from which there are also cognitive factors and emotional factors which could also be considered as an input for an output pain mechanism. I think everybody knows across what is what you call as a primitive definition of pain is concerned, but everything related to pain, we need to follow the International Association of the Study of the Pain, which whatever the recent definitions or what are the new classifications which have been brought across, this is the association where we need to rely for the literature. The current literature of the pain, which clearly says it's an unpleasant sensory feeling. That's what the old definition also says. And very importantly, there is one point being added as an emotional experience, which is associated with a tissue damage or without a tissue damage, it could be. So this is a current definition of the pain. And there are also 6 keynotes, what again, this also forms as a base for my presentation too, because pain is a personal experience which is influenced by biology, which is nothing but the musculoskeletal tissues, psychology of an individual, that is one's own beliefs, thoughts, one's own attitude, one's own fear catastrophization, and social factors, which are nothing but occupational related factors. And pain and nociception are totally a different phenomena. Why I am stating this is, in acute injury, you will have a stimulation of a nociceptors, but a chronic injury doesn't require a nociception. It requires even that is a central change in the brain, a sensitization in the brain or the spinal cord can be the cause over there. So that's why this is a very important fact which we need to know. Pain and nociception are total different phenomena. And as I've told you, it is going to be different for every individual. It's one's own life experiences. Individuals learn to the concept of the pain, and a person's report on an experience as pain should be respected. And pain has got an adverse effects on the functional, social, and psychological well-being of an individual. And very importantly, a verbal explanation of a patient. So this is what which is giving us a greater clue, you should allow your patient to express the pain. And very importantly, it has been said that the verbal explanation is the best method rather than any other tool which can quantify the pain. So this 6 keynotes of IASP is also the base for my presentation. The quick facts of the pain. Pain is an output. Here's the first and the foremost thing which you need to understand, that for every nociceptive input, brain is going to bring out an output which is nothing but the pain. So pain is an output, and we all know pain is an alert to an body, or it is for protection so that we prevent tissue damage further on. And very importantly, pain is non-linear. The first point says, to a nociceptive input, there is an output which is nothing but the pain, which says it's a linear direction. But the third point itself contradicts and says pain is non-linear, because pain is influenced by the psychological factors. Pain is influenced by central sensitization. It is also influenced by one's own thoughts, beliefs, and one's own psychological overlay and social overlay. And very importantly, if you feel like catastrophizing the pain, which you mean to say that if you exaggerate the signs and symptoms of the pain, in such situations, pain would be non-linear. This is a usual pathway which we would have studied in our undergraduate program, the pain pathway, where you do have the musculoskeletal system, so which is so-called as your somatic structure. So all your somatic structures have got nociceptors. When they are getting irritated or when they are getting degenerated, any change in the tissue morphology is going to stimulate the nociceptors. So your first order neuron is a one which is going to carry away the impulses to the dorsal horn, that is to the substantia gelatinosa. At that, from the substantia gelatinosa, the second order neuron starts, and it is going to reach the brain, where the pain is going to be sensed by the brain at the thalamic level. And from there, you have to the somatosensory cortex, you do have the third order neuron. So this is the physiology, or the basic physiology of the pain. That is, the carrier of the pain is the lateral spinothalamic tract, and it reaches the brain. And what the brain does, it is going to be a top-down inhibition it has to do, because bottom up, you do have a nociceptive input, and ultimately what is required down is your top-down pain inhibition. So it has to be inhibited in a downward direction, but sometimes it also gets facilitated. This is what it happens in chronic pain. So there should be a top-down inhibition pain from the brain. It has to get seized, the pain has to get seized through inhibition. But what happens in chronic pain? There is a top-down facilitation of pain. As I told you, pain is non-linear. It is a process of the brain, as we all know, as I told you, cognitive factors, contextual factors, the mood, depressive, anxiety, catastrophization, emotional context, and individual differences. That is, for every individual, it is going to be different. The genetics also play a role, gender also play a role. So this makes your pain to be a non-linear characteristic feature, where without a nociceptive input. So the key important point what you need to understand is, without a mechanical stimuli, without a nociceptors from the periphery, your brain can sense the pain, or it could, the sensitized part of the brain will emit a pain response. Even a minute touch can cause a pain when a patient is influenced by these factors. So thereby making pain to be a non-linear component. And very important thing which also research states is the perceived injustice. So if some have got a tendency that injustice has happened in their life, anything, everything, there is an injustice. Say for example, a non-smoker, when he has been diagnosed with a lung cancer, as we all know that smoking is the strongest association for a lung cancer. So when he has smoked for once, but his diagnosis is lung cancer, so obviously he will have an injustice onto his mind. So what researchers say is that this injustice feeling is also one among the triggering factor for the pain. So people need to understand it is more of psychology rather than the biological component, which we still ponder across in treating the low back pain individuals. And the other important model is the fear avoidance model. So this fear avoidance model also, where you can able to see, one is a cyclic form, that is your vicious cycle. The other is the break. There is a break in the cycle. So this is what you need to clearly understand when a patient is feeling pain. When the patient doesn't have a fear, he confronts. That is, confrontation is something as he fights with the pain and he gets a better recovery. Whereas another group of patients where they sense the pain to a greater extent, they always think of their pain and they catastrophize the situation, and that might lead on to a fear, and that might lead on to an avoidance or hypervigilance, which is so called as clinically the kinesiophobia. And this kinesiophobia is going to further cause disuse and depression, and that is going to further cause the pain experience. So this becomes a vicious cycle, and obviously this cycle leads on to a chronic pain. Again, this is very important because the role of a therapist or the role of a psychologist or a role of a multidisciplinary member is to break this cycle. That is, you have to make the cycle to be broken, like which, where they need to be thought across the importance of confrontation, and thereby that facilitates towards recovery. So as of the pain neurobiology is concerned, when I went across with a wide literature search, there are lot of mechanical classifications of the pain which were available. So one important thing which I thought across that it should be a systematic review, and you can able to see across which got recently published in July 2020. So this was a systematic review and a synthesis which has been made on the pain classification. And what that classification really revealed is that, so they have broadly, that I think 225 articles were taken for synthesis, and out of which they came into a conclusion that a pain mechanism commonly used by the various researchers all throughout the globe was nociceptive input, and neuropathic mechanism is the second type of mechanism. And the third mechanism is called as a chronic pain or central sensitization. Here you need to make a note. Now currently IASP as stated is as nociplastic. That is, they have renamed central sensitization or chronic pain as nociplastic mechanism of pain. And the other groups of mixed groups where you do have both together and the various diversified categories. But ultimately, at the end of the systematic review, they have accepted the three major classifications, and they have reached on to a consensus that the consensus on the classification is nociceptive pain, neuropathic pain, and nociplastic. So we'll be discussing about these three major neurobiological mechanisms in the forthcoming component. So to make it much simple to understand what you mean by nociceptive is, of course, when there is an injury or when there is a degeneration, the activation of nociceptors, and it is so direct that there is a mechanical involvement. You will have a mechanical feeling of loading, and or with the injury, you will have nociceptors as like you have a sprain with an inversion injury, lateral collateral ligament got sprained, there was a swelling, and there is a pain. So this is what is nociceptive mechanism. As we all know, a degenerative changes or an ankle sprain, or the classical example which I can give for nociceptive pain. Whereas something which is called as neuropathic, which is due to the lesion in the somatosensory system, that is a disease or the lesion of the nervous system, is so called as your neuropathic type of pain. And the examples which could be quote across is the diabetic neuropathy or carpal tunnel syndrome, or anything we call it as a radiculopathy as a commonest example, where the nerve roots is compressed or the sciatic tract is involved. So in such cases, we call it to be a neuropathic type of pain. But nociplastic is in between these both. It is a disturbance in the central pain. So we need to understand is you do have a periphery which is involved. That is your somatic structures which is involved over here. And you do have a specific nervous system which is involved here. But there is no structure is involved in nociplastic. So which you mean to say, only through proper clinical reasoning we can find what is the cause for it, but it is not structure based. And it is very clear that the central pain, there is an increase in the excitability of the brain and the spinal cord, which is called as central sensitization, where the pain is going to be in a continuous component. And there is a less amount of inhibition. There is going to be a reduction of inhibition onto it. And a very classical example which I can give you is fibromyalgia. And another example is a non-specific back pain. So you may wonder how a non-specific back pain, because fibromyalgia is a rheumatological disorder, there are more chances they can have a central pain. But a non-specific back pain is also one among the examples where the patient can be a candidate of nociplastic pain. So please remember, nociplastic is also called as chronic pain, or it is also called as central sensitization. As of the differentiation between these three, I think this slide would be quite explanatory, where you would be able to see the subjective signs and symptoms getting differed with all three types of pain. As of the the nociceptive pain, we all know that there are clear manifestations, very clear, proportionate. Patient will have a clear-cut referred pain or a localized pain. There will not be any doubt at all. It is as like your usual patient coming with a pain with the mechanical properties. There will be anatomical location of pain. Patient would say bending is causing me pain, extension is relieving me pain. So you will get a fixed pattern or a clear pattern in an system. And moreover, only movement alone causes pain. And when there is a mechanical deformation, alone causes pain, whereas rest is going to relieve the pain. So this is so classical with your nociceptive. Whereas with your neuropathic type of pain, where it is very clear that you will have an electric shock or as like a sharp shooting pain with an history of nerve pathology. And along with it, there will be pins and needles, paresthesia, numbness, and weakness, and so on. So it is very clear of all the neuropathic characteristic features. But for nociplastic, the pain would be totally disproportionate. There are many non-anatomical areas, according for a back pain patient would be said, and purely it is non-mechanical. That is, even a touch can elicit a pain, even a rubbing of a cloth can elicit a pain, a loud noise can elicit their pain in chronic situations, or even a bright light can cause a pain. So such much is your nociplastic pain, and the pain is beyond tissue healing, as we all know, and it is widespread and totally it is non-anatomical pattern. So with subjective data, when we collect the subjective data itself, you can able to clearly differentiate whether what type of pain they belong to. Very importantly, the clinical examination. As we all know that generally we follow a musculoskeletal examination. So that musculoskeletal examination will fit into nociceptive, where it is just the loading where you have your mobility testing, strength testing, resistor isometrics, your special test, and so on. Whereas for your nociplastic pain, where you need to use a test battery, which is called as quantitative sensory testing battery. So I'll be showing you across the picture what it comprises of. It comprises of a brush, it constitutes of a monofilament, it constitutes of test tube for hot and cold testing, pressure algometer, Aslak switch. So where these people will have symptoms of hyperalgesia. Hope you know the definition of hyperalgesia. Even a very minimal painful stimulus for which it would be very more. That is pain, they perceive greater pain for a very minimal painful stimulus. And allodynia is nothing but a non-painful stimulus is going to cause further pain. So the two important features which we note using this sensory testing, we can able to find even a what you call it as a feather touch is going to cause them a pain. So you do have two important features. One is the hyperalgesia, the other is the allodynia for a nociplastic pain. And more importantly, they also show tenderness in the various components, which are all non-anatomical areas. For neuropathic pain, as the nervous tissue is involved, the neurodynamics, that is your slump test, your straight leg raising test, and your what you call the conventional neurological testing of reflexes, dermatomes, myotomes, and all these things. And other significant thing is in neuropathic pain also, in over a period of time, they also will have signs and symptoms of hyperalgesia, thereby stating that neuropathic group is more prone to get converted into nociplastic group. With the tools, yes, of course, there are a lot of validated questionnaires which are available in English language. And one among the questionnaires is a pain detect questionnaire, which differentiates nociceptive pain and a neuropathic pain. And for central sensitization, you have got a lot of validated tools. Of course, for central sensitization to confirm, always we cannot rely on a functional MRI, or you cannot always rely on a serum biomarkers. So we have to use a tool which is called a central sensitization inventory questionnaire. And there are also other tools as like fear avoidance, pain catastrophizing, and Tampa scale of kinesiophobia for it. Psychosocial factors, yes, of course, nociceptive doesn't have any overlay, whereas the other two, there is a strong overlay between them. Nociceptive pain treatment guidelines. So what makes us to say across that what would be the appropriate treatment for a nociceptive pain? We all know that it is because of the excessive tissue loading. So obviously the first and the foremost principle for a nociceptive pain, find the tissue which is at fault And if the tissue has been compressed or the tissue has been irritated, try to reduce it. So the primary principle is reduce the tissue loading. And very importantly is the education. So whatever might be the pain mechanism, education plays a very, very important role for each and everything, because once you educate about their pain pathology, once they educate about what are the things which they are supposed to do, there will be a greater recovery. So that is what the latest research which speaks across. So ultimately, anything, everything you do it for the nociceptive group is physical therapy and physical approach in physical forms. And the education which you are supposed to give it for the nociceptive pain, you have to be little careful. You have to just explain about the pain pathway. And I mean, the top researchers clearly say across that you should not give information about the nociplastic group or the nociplastic type of mechanism, because they are thinking itself, so you should not give a lead to them about the nociplastic pain. Just the normal pain pathway of the first order neuron, how it reaches the spinal cord and how the brain is sensing your pain. And you have to say that when you take care of this, when you are getting your treatment, you are healing. So all these positive connotations are very, very important for nociceptive, because we tend to stop anything, everything within nociceptive. So that is for the betterment. So once when it is not being treated properly, he or she might be a candidate for nociplastic type of pain. So education at nociceptive is also important, and never ever overlead your education by giving information about chronic pain. So the tissue threat is on the process. So obviously we are going to reduce the load onto the tissue. And if there is an issue with the posture, if there is an issue with the tissue loading, we are going to modify that in nociceptive pain. And ultimately, these are all the two evidence-based, what so called as your treatment approaches for nociceptive group. That is your movement sciences, that is your movement therapy, and your motor control exercises for a back pain patient. So these two are the essential things which are highly required for the nociceptive group. And for the neuropathic group, as we all know that its tissue loading, that is nervous tissue loading, has to be reduced in various forms. Either you put across McKenzie centralization procedures by which you centralize the pain, you reduce the load onto the nervous tissue. So thereby, and the other component is your neurodynamics, that is your sliders and the tensioners for the nervous tissue mobility, which can be considered. And ultimately, the very important outcome which you have to say is reduce the amplification. So reduce the amplification towards it. Why? Because neuropathic pain are more or less close to the nociplastic mechanism. So obviously, reduction of amplification of these two, that is when your nervous system is involved. So try to take care at the earliest so that you never allow the nervous system to be sensitized, because your peripheral sensitization is one among the things which can lead from your neuropathic type of pain. And this is a tool which I've told you before, that is your PDQ tool. This is the final outcome of your PDQ tool. That is, this tool says across whether the patient belongs to nociceptive group or a neuropathic group. So scores greater than 18 is considered to be a neuropathic component. And of course, it's a validated tool which we can rely on. Coming on to the nociplastic group, I think much of explanation would be on to this group, because as per IASP, it is a definition that the pain is arise from the altered nociception. It's not a regular nociception which we have seen before, and there might not be any tissue damage, or there may not be any involvement of the somatosensory system. So, but there is going to be a chronic pain. So the nociplastic or central sensitization is nothing but the afferent also carries pain and the efferent also carries pain. So top down there should be an inhibition, but top down as the central system, that is you call it as your second order neuron and your third order neuron are sensitized. So they become sensitized, and even a small stimuli being given, the brain starts to sense it as a pain, and even your descending pathway is going to carry pain. So they are the more vulnerable group. So obviously greater amount of rehabilitation is required for the nociplastic group. So this is just a simple physiology by which you can able to see across our non-painful, if you can able to track my slide, our non-painful stimuli. So a non-painful stimuli. So there is no pain in a normal individual. Whereas when it is a painful stimuli, the graph shows to the steep, that is the pain increases in its intensity. But what happens in nociplastic group is that even a non-painful stimulus, when it is being given, that is when they are touched using a feather, when they are being touched using a monofilament. So this is what the signs of allodynia is being noted. And obviously, when a mild painful stimuli is given, see across the graph where the pain response is going to be greater for nociplastic group, and for a small normal nociceptive group, the pain pathway follows this. And this is again a description by which you can able to see your patient. Either he might be nociceptive, nociplastic, or he might be your neuropathic. Out of these four categories, they will be belonging to. The first one where you can able to see there is no pain because your peripheral. So here, I think I have already shown you, this becomes your first order neuron. So to be very specific, this is your first order neuron from your tissue till to your spinal cord. So from the spinal cord, you have your second order neuron and your third order neuron within your central system, that is your spinal cord and your brain. So this is the base by which you can keep in mind. So now the second patient is what? Where he has got peripheral sensitization. So your peripheral tissue, that is your first order neuron, has become sensitized and is going to perceive pain. Whereas your central system, that is your spinal cord and brain, are functioning normally. But this is a case which is very important when this patient in the acute stage, when he is not being rendered a proper therapy, he can be a candidate of peripheral sensitization. So the third situation is something is that which is called as where your second order neuron and your third order neuron becomes hyperexcited and the pain is going to be perceived. So this is what is a classical central sensitization. So the third category is central sensitization or nociplastic group, which is also called as. But the fourth is the combination of B and C. So B can lead on to C, and ultimately it can lead on to D. Or else C can be a direct candidate of central sensitization. So the reason for central sensitization are many. As I have told you that there are a lot of cognitive, emotional factors. So a psychological well-being is very important for a back pain rehabilitation. So this D, which says across, the candidate has got both peripheral and central sensitization, and obviously the pain perceived by them will be greater. So as we see across in the pathway, the B, C, and D requires greater amount of education and physical therapy intervention. And the role of physical therapy for C and D varies, as we are going to see in the forthcoming slide. Yes, medical diagnosis also plays a very important role. A recent research by Joe Nitz has clearly said that these are all the medical diagnoses where your nociplastic pain is more common. As I have already told you, fibromyalgia, 100% of fibromyalgic patients will have nociplastic pain, that is central sensitization. And non-specific back pain is 25% of candidates are more prone to get osteoarthritis of the knee, 30%, whiplash of the neck is 90%, and more alarmingly or more recently added is the neck pain and shoulder pain, where these two groups also have got 10% of population more prone to have nociplastic pain. When you collect history, there are few tips, not necessarily that these tips need to be present in all patients with nociplastic, but in extreme cases, these are very important. Obviously, in history taking, when you're speaking about the pain, they will be more bothered about their pain. They'll be speaking about the anatomical area and the non-anatomical area, and they are very hypersensitive to the pain, and they are also hypersensitive to the touch, smell, hot, cold, and all these things. A small important clue is that a hug, a social hug by a partner itself will be painful for them. They may say that they are wearing sunglasses inside the building so that they feel that when they want to wear, they feel much comfortable. So these are all the important clues by which, and turning down the radio volume even when it is already low. So because a vision or an auditory system is also a sensory component. So they carry their pathway of auditory impulses, but that auditory impulses or the visual impulses is sensed as a brain because the filter at the spinal cord is sensitized. That is, spinal cord is an important filter which has to filter out and have to send to the brain. But that filter is defective, and that analgesic system has totally gone defective, and thereby even an auditory impulse is sensed as a pain in nociplastic group. The sensory testing battery, so as it constitutes of monofilaments, as it is constitutes of your paintbrush and your painful stimuli, your types of your pressure biofeedback, your pressure algometer and your tuning fork for your vibratory sense. So this is a kit by which you can, that is a qualitative a quantitative sensory testing by which you can come into a conclusion in your objective assessment that they are a candidate of central sensitization. And this is a tool which is called as a central sensitization inventory tool. And you see across the interpretations of this tool with various things of 0 to 29. If the scores from this questionnaire, it is subclinical, whereas extreme cases, if the scores are above 60, where they are the candidate of central sensitization. So as of the nociplastic group, the prime important treatment aspect is the pain neuroscience education. So this is a key important task which you need to know. Of course, there are a lot many courses in Western countries being offered for pain neuroscience education along with psychological therapy. And again, even in this group, you have to reduce the amplification as it is very clear that they are hypersensitive, that is your second order neurons. So they are hypersensitive. We need to reduce those amplifications for the betterment in nociplastic group. So here there is no tissue threat at all in nociplastic group, but it requires more amount of behavioral therapy and more amount of education. And exercises are only graded. So you cannot give all exercises, but exercises really play an important role. Aerobics play an important role, but they have to be given in a graded form. So these are all the three treatment outlines which we will be discussing. The first and the foremost is the education. Education on the pathoanatomy is one thing which is always questionable. So now researchers have clearly said that when you educate too much on pathoanatomy, there is going to be an increase in the fear. That is, you are going to speak about the massive disc prolapses, you are going to speak about the nerve root irritation, slippage of the vertebrae. So all those things have to be reserved and avoided at any cost, because that is going to cause an increase in the fear, an increase in pain, and that is going to change the belief. That is, their belief would be totally changed, and which gets engrammed in your brain that whenever I bend, will I have my slippage entering into the next percentage? So that process has to be avoided. Rather, the pain neuroscience education gives a very fascinating statement, is that if emotions, cognition, beliefs, and attitude is going to influence one's own pain, your treatment should be aimed in changing the beliefs, changing the emotions about the pain. So this is what is the primary motto of pain neuroscience education. And education about the pain matrix. So you can able to see these are all the centers of the pain within our brain, where there are three centers for orchestrating and the other centers for processing the pain. And as like which, as it is listed, you could be able to view these are all the areas. And pain matrix education is one among the component of neuropain science education. Because amygdala is one such area, which is the area when an individual is stressed. This is the area which would be hypersensitive. So it is very important in an education for one who has got greater amount of anxiety and stress. You have to show them that this is your anxiety level. Following your counseling session, your anxiety is down, and you have to put a down arrow mark onto the amygdala, and you have to say that it has reduced in its sensitivity, and you will see greater amount of recovery. So this much amount of explanation in pain neuroscience educations are very important. And always without a metaphor. So that is your picturesque explanation. Without a metaphor, your education cannot be possible. So we have to give lively examples, as like a very specific example being given in pain neuroscience education is the email filter. As we all know that it filters and sends the unwanted messages to the spam. So now spam is nothing but, your spam folder is nothing but our spinal cord. So spinal cord, when our spam folder is not filtering, it is sending all the impulses to the brain, and thereby the brain gets hypersensitive. So it is our treatment intervention. We are going to take care of the dysfunctional spam folder, that is, which is nothing but the filter is not functioning properly at the spinal cord. So such metaphors would be used by which the patient understands the neurobiology of the pain. And obviously through treatment, through proper counseling and education, and use of metaphors plays a key important role in pain neuroscience education. Ultimately, the primary goal of this education is to reduce the threat meter, and you can able to see in the first picture, there will be a greater threat in the brain of thinking of all the nonsense information which they have got. Got it right? So all the nonsense information, their beliefs, attitudes, and everything is going to have increased their threat meter. So it is through pain neuroscience the threat meter has to be reduced. So all these group of patients for a low back pain, it is not only the pain neuroscience education is is required, they also require a booster dose in the form of exercise. So pain neuroscience education along with exercises and movement is of superior quality in bringing across a greater amount of improvement in chronic back pain patients. The next important outline is the cognitive therapy, where, as we all know, that the cognitive therapy is very, very important. We know that brain is hypersensitive, so the treatment should be given through the education session. So that inhibition is called as the top-down nociceptive inhibition, where you do have the stress management, sleep management, and graded activities. So this is what we are going to see in three forms. The cognitive behavioral therapy was found by Warby in 2008, whereas it is purely for the psychologists to play a key important role as it is related to behavioral sciences. Whereas Peter O'Sullivan has redacted it as cognitive functional therapy in 2012, and Loeb is as proposed in 2011 of pain neuroscience education. And these are all the three important cognitive therapy for top-down inhibition. So our treatment for nociplastic pain should be top-down inhibition, and these three are the evidence-based method through various researches. Of course, CBT has been accepted all throughout the globe. CFT is emerging in its research, and pain neuroscience is also growing in a fast pace. So cognitive functional therapy is as proposed by Peter O'Sullivan has got three stages because physical therapists can be more involved in cognitive functional therapy rather than cognitive behavioral therapy. So the first component here is making sense of the pain. And the second important step is exposure with control. That is your graded exercise activity. And third is your lifestyle changes. So these are all the three phases. Obviously, the first phase is very important where education on pain neuroscience, knowing their pain and various factors. So obviously uses 8 factors to be kept into mind: the cognitive, emotional, physical, pathoanatomy, lifestyle, social, sensory, that is which evaluates the hyperalgesia and the overall health. So these 8 domains. So say for example, this is for patient X, where prior to the cognitive functional therapy, this is what. So from this mapping, we can understand that this patient has got a greater cognitive impairment, emotional impairment, and even physical, and pathoanatomy uses the MRI finding for pathoanatomical changes. So based on that, following a CFT of 12-week session, there is a reduction. For the same patient, this is what is the mapping at the end of the session. So cognitive functional therapy, there are very few RCTs available, and there is a huge scope for research for cognitive functional therapy. And if not your CFT, you can also have an easy guide to map the drivers of the pain. Once you complete your, your subjective objective examination for a back pain patient, you can use a pentagon model. That is, you can just list down what is contributing their pain. Is that the nociception, or is it the nervous system which is contributing, or a comorbidity factors, or cognitive emotional factors, or your occupational stress. Again, for a patient X, you can able to see this patient has got greater amount of dysfunction. So these will guide us very easily so that our treatment intervention can be directly to the nervous system and towards the emotional. So this patient requires both neurodynamics and reduction of amplification, and these are the outcome, what you call it as an outline of a treatment. And this patient requires greater amount of education through pain neuroscience. So this mapping at the end of the assessment would be an easy guide for us. And whatever it might be, the third most outline is that we need to follow the biopsychosocial model. So when every patient is going to get differed, everyone will have a different experiences. For some patients where your biological treatment, that is treating your musculoskeletal systems is your biology, treating the psychological factors through education and cognitive therapy, and social also underlies to it. So the biopsychosocial model differs with the individual. Some may have greater amount of biology to be treated. Some patients it would be greater amount of psychology, and some the social aspect. So it is accordingly your mapping has to be done in your treatment aspect. So always follow the biopsychosocial model of care, even though there are lot of arguments within which, but ultimately speaking, this is a model which is of a standard care for a low back rehabilitation. Can manual therapy be given, or it can be a stressor? So research clearly proves for a central sensitization or for candidates with nociplastic pain, vigorous exercises, anything in the form of ischemic compression and high velocity thrust, Myofascial therapy, dry needling, acupuncture, osteopathy, all are stressors. That is, they stress, and obviously that is going to cause an increase in the symptoms, because even when they have been tried out, the patient started saying getting pain out of the sites. That is, they also started saying new symptoms out of it. So always have a caution manual therapy onto patients with nociplastic pain, and rather promote healing through your positive connotations, promote healing through your positive words to your patients about the central sensitization. You have to say as a simple statement, brain acts as an amplifier. More you worry, you think about your pain, the worse it is going to be. So reduce the amplification by your thought process, reduce the amplification through your lifestyle changes. And another important statement is sleeping well, exercise, and an healthy diet, and cutting down the habit of smoking. You will get your back to normal. And researchers have done lot biomarkers, and these are all the 4 important biomarkers, and this pays for further research avenues. Of course, we have completed one research with high sensitive C-reactive protein in our faculty with regards of chronic back pain patients. And there are also other top notch of biomarkers as like interleukin 6, TNF alpha factor, and interleukin 1 beta. So these are all the 4 markers which have been widely used. And because they say across these markers are associated with inflammation, depression, and fear avoidance. To say across that interleukins, I mean, high sensitive C-reactive protein will be on acute stages. When there is an inflammation, surely there will be an increase in high sensitive. So your treatment should be there to reduce the inflammation. Patients with back pain with depression, there is an elevated TNF alpha. So these were all the standardized cluster analysis being made by Paul Ordwitz in a study. So obviously, these markers gives across a greater information. So if your facility has got a biochemistry department along with the central laboratory facility, early identification with these groups through researchers or for a clinical material, this could be taken into consideration for a betterment for back pain patients. Yes, of course, pharmaceutical agents also do have a play a role onto the mechanism of to it. So the commonest, what you call it as a drug being prescribed is the serotonin, non-adrenaline for nociplastic group. And of course, research states that the size of effect for this drug is going to be less. And obviously, these drugs have got greater amount of side effects onto the nociplastic group. Nociceptive group, of course, analgesics, non-steroidal, anti-inflammatory are accepted, but use of opioids have to be warranted. It has to be considered before prescribing. That is, your patient may ask you across use of opioid because it has got a greater role to suppress the immune system. And gabapentinoid is a commonest drug being offered for neuropathic type of pain. Thus, the take-home message: pain is always an output from the brain. It is 100%. Pain does not equal the amount of tissue damage, because tissue damage might be there in the initial stages, and it is influenced by multiple factors through our thoughts, beliefs, sleep, mood, and stress. And acute pain serves as a protective function to warn the danger. So keep in mind, acute pain has to be treated with hard and fast rules, so that you never allow that candidate to enter into the next phase of the pain. And chronic pain results from an hypersensitive nervous system. So have to be very careful with the chronic pain in identifying them and in treating them through pain neuroscience education on cognitive functional therapy. And many treatments can turn down an hypersensitive nervous system. So a hypersensitive central nervous system can be brought to normalcy through your treatment interventions, which are also called as brain targeting treatment approaches or top-down inhibition techniques. I would like to strongly acknowledge these 3 pioneers in the field of back pain. That is Jonas. He has done a lot of research works in the field of central sensitization, and Peter O'Sullivan and Paul Ordwitz in the field of back pain rehabilitation. Thank you one and all for patient listening.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for gracing us with your knowledge. It was indeed a wonderful session. Now over to Dr. Abhivyakti ma'am for questionnaires if somebody has put on.
Good
If somebody is having any query, please put down in the question answer chat box.
There was one question by Tanlap Kundu. Sir, he was asking what will be the role of nervi nervorum in chronic pain?
What is the role? Can you be louder, ma'am?
So what will be the role of nervi nervorum in chronic pain?
What is the role of? I couldn't able to get you.
It's nervi nervorum.
Nervi nervorum. So nervi nervorum, it's an interface. That is, it is with the interface to the nervous system. So as of the neurodynamics is concerned, I think what you call it as the neurodynamics, we call two important techniques called as sliders and tensioners. So when there is going to be, what in that context, what he asked across is about the neurodynamics of the nervous system has to be considered when you find across a patient to have a neuropathic type of pain. And for every nerve, you do have a maneuver by which you can able to slide the nerve, and you do have a maneuver by which you can tensioner the nerve. So sliders or tensioner are the maneuvers which could be able to take into consideration as of the neurodynamics for neuropathic type of pain is considered.
Okay, thank you, sir. I think anybody with some questions?
One more question is there, sir?
One more question from Soumya. So what is the use of Lange pain scale?
Yeah, as of scales of pain, you have separate scales of using it. I think evidence has clearly stated pain catastrophizing scale is a very important scale which can be used. And I think Lange scale, I think you need to check across the values of Lange scale, that is the ICC values of Lange scale before using it. I do reserve my comments on Lange scale.
Okay, thank you, sir. So there is one more question. Is nociplastic pain similar to thalamic pain syndrome?
So thalamic pain syndrome, you can consider that is on which purview you are asking is very important. So thalamic pain syndrome is something when neurorehabilitation is going to be totally different. But these groups are the patients where even a non-specific back pain can have a central pain. So that is very important. So thalamic pain syndrome, the context by which you ask is totally different. From a musculoskeletal perspective, pain has been, as I've told you in pain matrix, there are various areas where your pain has been orchestrated. So any part of it, say for example, if it is a stress, if the patient is suffering from greater amount of stress, there is going to be an hypersensitive at the amygdala area. So every area is responsible for one among your contributors. So it is not just the thalamic alone. So there are many areas for processing your pain. So it differs with individual. For some, it might be your PAG area. For some, it might be a prefrontal cortex. So it differs as to the area, and the appropriate tool by which we can find is the functional MRI. Okay, so functional MRI is a tool which can clearly tell you, but it is quite a costly, what you call it as a costly diagnostic intervention where you cannot do for every patient. But for research purpose, functional MRI is the gold standard by which you can confirm the presence of central sensitization. That will clearly show you the oxygen uptake area of the brains too.
Thank you so much, sir. So there is one more question. This is psychophysical testing of skin by which therapy?
Psychophysical testing, that is you are testing your skin. There are various ways by which you can test your skin for the touch, pain, pressure, threshold, and for the temperature. So this is what is that test battery clearly says across your type of stimuli. Your type of stimuli to the skin and the mucosa differs with various grades, and even within your monofilament, you do have various thickness of your monofilaments to be tested. So skin and mucosa are the basic things which we test in for chronic pain using your quantitative testing battery.
So one more question. Can nociceptive
bottle?
Can nociceptive pain can be converted into nociplastic pain?
देख ले मेरा ठीक है ना.
So this question,
मेरी speech आने वाली है actually.
See, the answer is within your question. See, now why nociceptive have to be converted? I mean, why your okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, nociceptive pain to nociplastic. Okay, so nociceptive pain can be converted. There are greater chances nociceptive can be converted into nociplastic if proper interventions have not been given as nociceptive. But there are a lot of researchers stating that without a nociceptive pain, patient can directly land up into nociplastic if all the confounding factors or the factors, as I told you, cognitive, emotional, are all overlying over there, they can directly be a candidate of nociplastic also.
Okay, any more questions? So that was vast, immense knowledge. We are grateful that you're here. I don't think there is another question. Anybody
Yeah.
with any question? I think we are done with question and answers. Thank you so much,
Any
sir. It was
queries?
wonderful session.
Now I would call upon Dr. Monica ma'am, our district coordinator, for a vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, Priyanka. Thank you so much, Dr. Anthony Leo, for this excellent and informative session and the knowledge that you shared with us. Thank you for taking out time for this webinar also. I would also like to thank all the participants for showing interest and trusting us. I extend my sincere thanks to our IAP President, Dr. Sanjeev Jha sir, IAP Women's Cell National Head, Dr. Ruchi Varshney ma'am, and our North Zonal Head, Dr. Dipti Goyal, for providing us this platform so that we can reach to all of you. Thank you, State Team and our Ghaziabad IAP team for always being so supportive. We are also grateful to our technical team for this support and guidance. Last but not the least, our wonderful team, Dr. Priyanka Tyagi and Dr. Abhivyakti. They're putting in so much efforts to conduct this webinar. And as we conclude, I request each and every physiotherapy student and professional to subscribe to our IAP YouTube channel and also our IAP Facebook page. Let's stay united for our profession. Best wishes to all of you. Be safe and healthy. Take care.
And can we go for another question? There is one more question.
Yeah.
So it is how to apply to CBT.
I think CBT is, again, you do have three-phased manners of CBT. Again, you will be speaking about the pain characteristic feature. Very importantly is the behavior modification. So in CBT, the key important thing or the component in CBT is the behavioral modification, by which you will have face-to-face sessions with the psychologist. And in abroad, even physical therapists are credentialized to practice CBT. But now that we have an alternative, now that we have CFT, that is cognitive functional therapy, where it is directly what you call it as physical therapists can go across some certification of cognitive functional therapy to practice with chronic low back pain patients.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for such informative
Welcome.
webinar.
I thank the organizers for a wonderful arrangement.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Ghaziabad
much.
team,
Thank
for
you, sir.
organizing such wonderful webinar. I extended my thanks for Dr. Sanjeev Jha sir and Ruchi ma'am for providing this platform. Again, I request to all the participants, please like and subscribe IAP India YouTube channel and Facebook page. Thank you, everyone.